Does size matter? Hello and welcome back to the Waiting Native Chronicles. The gun I usually take with me in the bush for protection is this Smith & Wesson Model 29-3 with a 10 and 5/8 inch barrel on it. A lot of people give me grief about this gun because they look at that long barrel and say, you know, that gun is going to be way too slow to draw from your holster to use for protection if you're ever being attacked. So I want to test that hypothesis, and I'm going to take this Ruger Security 6 with a 2 3/4 inch barrel. This is a 357 Magnum. This is a 44 Magnum. So basically guns at two opposite extremes. And we're going to test these against each other. So let's get going with this.
Ridiculous, dude. It's actually quicker than the 6%. 14.02. Well, the hits are easily within.
Yeah, he wasn't anything went off the board or anything.
Not even close. So 16.2 that time. No problem at all. Yeah. Easy peasy, man. So that was 12.85 seconds, 14.3 seconds. Faster from back here than with the other.
Okay.
Faster back here, we got 17.1 seconds free.
Well, that was fun. Let's just keep in mind with this test that we saw that I was attempting to pass what's called a Canadian Proof of Proficiency course at the time of this. And in order to pass that test, I had to be able to draw from my holster and fire off 6 shots within 20 seconds, and all of those shots had to fall within a 9-inch diameter radius on the target. So although I was in a hurry, I wasn't shooting quite as fast as I really could in a real emergency, because I also wanted to make sure that all those shots fit into that 9-inch radius target. So we'll have to keep that in mind. The way this test is conducted, you have to first shoot it in the kneeling position, so that's 6 shots at the target at a 5-meter range, and then 6 shots at a 10-meter range, and then another 6 shots at a 15-meter range, which winds up being about 49 feet for those of you in the imperial system. And then you have to repeat the whole thing again from the standing position. So 6 shots from 5 meters, 6 shots from 10 meters, and 6 shots from 15 meters. Also, please note that at the time of this test, because of the disruption caused by the COVID shutdowns, I hadn't shot a handgun really in more than a year. So pretty rusty, but didn't seem to have that much effect. So what do you think we can learn from this test? In my opinion, I think it answers a few questions, or goes some ways towards that. For one thing, it answers the question of how fast is the one gun compared to the other, and that's what we talked about at the beginning of this video. That long-barreled Smith Wesson, the 44 mag, it's a higher recoiling handgun, and it's a long barrel to draw out of the holster, versus that Ruger Security 6 with just a short barrel and a 357 Magnum, quite a bit less recoil. How did those two guns compare to each other in terms of speed? Well, in my opinion, there's not a whole lot of difference. The little Ruger is definitely got a bit of an edge, but I don't know if I would call it that much of an edge, because there's a certain amount of variability in a short number of shots like this. So I'd say it's not a whole lot of difference, to tell you the truth. Another thing you can measure from this is how accurate were the two guns compared to each other. To tell you the truth, I sort of thought that the Smith & Wesson with that long barrel was going to shoot quite a bit more accurate than the little 2 3/4 inch barreled Security 6. In fact, so much that I was a little bit concerned whether I could even pass that test with such a short barreled handgun, to be honest. But as you can see from the target results, there's really not much to choose from between these two guns. They both produced groups at about the same size and shot at about the same speed. So another thing we can take away from this test too is this is a good example of comparing a kneeling position to a standing position when you're shooting. And I've found that the speed in terms of shooting when you're in a kneeling position versus a standing position was pretty well negligible. It's because you're drawing the gun as you're lowering down to your knee, so it's really not much of a difference. And also in terms of accuracy, about the same, maybe a slight edge to the kneeling position, but not a whole lot of difference. But when it comes to the kneeling position, one thing I would urge you to consider is that there can be an advantage to that in terms of protection, and I'm talking about only in a circumstance where there is no bush intervening between you and whatever is you have to defend yourself from, and no tall grass. I mean, if you have the opportunity to kneel, then I would recommend that, because it gets you down lower and in line with the sight of the animal that's approaching fast. Because if you're standing up and you're above the animal, you're sort of shooting down at an angle, and the animal's approaching very quickly, so there's a high likelihood of shooting over top of the animal's back, because you're aiming where he was, and by the time you pull the trigger and the bullet gets there, the animal has moved closer, and now that bullet goes over top of its back. Whereas if you're kneeling, then you're shooting right straight down the pike. Now, I have a video on that on the best positions to use for stopping a bear attack, and I'll have that linked up in the corner here and also at the end of this video, and I'll put a link to it in the description of this video as well. So what gun should you choose? You know, take the gun you have. If it's halfway suited to the task, not everybody can just go out and buy special purpose guns. I mean, I'm sticking with my long-barreled 44 Magnum. But you know, if you are going out to buy a gun, I would definitely go with the 44 Magnum for its stopping power. Really, it's not slowing you down very much in your rate of fire either, as you can see in this test. So why not have that power? Because when an animal is attacking, if it's a big animal like a bear, especially a grizzly bear, I have some concerns about a 357 mag bullet bouncing, ricocheting right off its skull plate as it comes to you. So more power is good, and maybe consider using hard cast bullets too. Something that penetrates deeply. Now the type of 44 mag you can use, again, I don't think it's a huge problem, but you know, the 44 mag is a heavy gun to carry. So for me, if I was going out to buy a new gun, I would actually kind of like to have a Smith Wesson Model 29 with just a 4-inch barrel. I've had one of those before, and I'll tell you one thing about them. The muzzle blast is really extreme on them, and I have a feeling that a lot of people, especially if you're a new shooter, I wouldn't recommend it too highly, because that muzzle blast is going to give you a flinch if you're not really careful. And I think for that reason, most people would be better off with a 6-inch barrel. So keeping the weight down, not so much for speed, but I'm thinking more of the weight. So that wraps up my thoughts on the subject. I'd like to hear what you have to say too. Place your comments down in the comment section of this video if you have them, and post some questions too. Let's get a little bit of discussion going. I read all the questions and comments on my videos, so you don't have to worry about that. So from the Weighted Native Chronicles, I hope you enjoyed this content. If you haven't subscribed yet, then please do so, and click like to this video. It really helps this channel out a lot, and it supports more of this content being produced. God bless, and catch you next time.
이때 또 내가 태워지 이게 나지